From swearing that he won't hurt the Maverick to wanting a shot at his younger brother, here's what we know about Vitor Belfort's call-out to Logan Paul. He just wants a piece of the older Paul for now. The Phenom has always been pretty vocal about who he wants to fight, and it looks like he has his eyes set on his next target, Logan Paul. Vitor apparently wants this match so badly that he even tried to get Dana White involved in it. He called out the UFC boss to mediate things between him and Logan because of their partnership with Prime Hydration, which happens to be owned by Paul. Belfort doesn't want to play nice either. He's already mocking Logan by promising him that he won't hurt him. The former UFC champ posted this on his Instagram, posing with a cutout of Logan, and had tagged both Dana and Paul in it. But it looks like the WWE star isn't all that interested in Vitor because he hasn't responded to him. And the fan reaction to this is just weird. I mean, you'd expect Belfort's fans to at least back him, but these guys have been tearing him a new one. A lot of them have been telling Vitor off for asking Dana's permission. It's true that he doesn't need it, but the UFC boss can play a role in making it happen. Due to the whole partnership thing with Prime, and now that UFC and WWE are sister companies, the question here is whether Dana will step in. I really doubt it. Another fan was also skeptical of Belfort's choice of opponents. First, an old Evander Holyfield, and now a YouTuber? Some really poor choices. A couple of guys were also wondering if Vitor will fight clean this time, without steroids that is. And a lot of fans were really vocal about the fact that this is a fight that absolutely no one wants to see. But some people were also backing up Vitor to knock Paul out, if the fight were to happen. So it's unlikely that Logan will accept the match anyway. The Phenom can really mess him up inside the ring. And then there are Logan's other commitments as well. You see, he just recently signed on with WWE and is likely focused on his career as a pro wrestler. Since joining the WWE banner, he's found a lot of success. I mean, a lot of people are already surprised at how well he's done so far. Logan's a natural on the mic, and his previous wrestling experience translated pretty well into the scene. But he could always find a way to make time for a boxing match. That would have been the case if there wasn't one other problem: the clash in schedules. You see, Vitor wants to take on Logan on the same night as Jake is fighting Nate Diaz. And the thing is, Logan is supposed to make an appearance at the SummerSlam event on that very evening. So it's highly unlikely that the WWE star is going to make changes in his diary to accommodate Belfort. And obviously, WWE isn't going to mess up their whole year for this either. That brings me to how well Logan has done so far in his career. I'm not referring to only wrestling here, guys. He was one of the first YouTubers to transition into boxing. And remember, this was way before it became a thing. So he kinda paved the way for all social media stars to make some money in the ring as well. The Maverick had a couple of matches with his fellow YouTuber from across the pond, KSI. He may not have won either of them, but it allowed him to land an exhibition match against Floyd Mayweather himself. This was huge because they made a revenue of a whopping $50 million. Needless to say, his younger brother also benefited from it all. Logan didn't find much success as a boxer, though. It only served as a stepping stone for him and helped him slingshot his career forward as he then moved into the world of pro wrestling. So I doubt he's going to take up Vitor's offer because the Brazilian is a sensational fighter. He's fought at the top of the middleweight and light heavyweight divisions in the UFC for a very long time. He chose to retire from MMA in 2018, and since then, he's been terrorizing the boxing world. Vitor appeared in an exhibition match against Evander Holyfield in 2021. Now, keep in mind that Belfort may have been in his 40s, but the former heavyweight champ was almost 60. This was supposed to just be an exhibition match, but that didn't stop the Brazilians from committing elder abuse. The match was supposed to go for 8 rounds, but Vitor, being who he is, decided that it'd be a good idea to knock out Holyfield in the opening couple of minutes. It wasn't completely his fault, to be fair though. Holyfield was only a shell of his former self and had no business being in the ring. Anyway, just a couple of weeks ago, Vitor entered the ring once more against a former rival, Ronaldo Souza. This time, it was a professional match under the Gamebred boxing banner. The Phenom managed to avenge his 2016 UFC loss against Jacare. The match did go the distance this time though, and it eventually came down to the scorecards. The win was unanimous, as it should have been, because Vitor looked significantly better than his opponent. Now, with a couple of wins under his belt, Vitor has developed a taste in boxing, and the Phenom has some other names on his mind. His main goal is to share the ring with guys who have made an impact. This includes MMA legends, influencers turned boxers, and other free agents. Belfort mentioned that he wants to face Anthony Pettis next because it was supposed to be Roy Jones Jr. versus Vitor at Gamebred Boxing 4 originally. But Roy picked an easier fight and still wasn't able to win. So a match against Pettis makes the most sense for the 46-year-old. He also mentioned Anderson Silva as an option, but that's more of a passion-purpose thing for the UFC legend. The two have shared the octagon before, and Vitor fell short against the Spider, so he probably wants to take his revenge. Another pair of brothers that Belfort wants a crack at are Nick and Nate Diaz. He obviously has a lot of respect for them, because like him, they too are true fighters who love to box. Vitor also believes that it was he who inspired the Diaz brothers to take up boxing. They also came from the Gracie team, much like him, and it'll be an honor for him to face one or both of them inside the ring. Then there's, of course, the Paul brothers. But that one's easier said than done, because Jake is locked up against Nate Diaz already. After what seems like ages, the two of them have finally made it official. Jake, in the past, had called out the Stockton Slapper several times, but it couldn't happen because Nate was tied up due to his contractual obligations to the UFC. Now that he's a free agent, he can do whatever he pleases. You see, guys, Nate wanted to box. He had said so multiple times in the past. And obviously he likes to make money, so fighting Jake achieves both of that at the same time. The problem child has been making some waves lately in the world of boxing. He's been taking on and beating former UFC legends like Anderson Silva, Tyron Woodley, and Ben Askren. That's a pretty good way to make a name for yourself. Jake was only stopped by a split decision in his most recent fight against Tommy Fury. Now it looks like he's back to picking on MMA fighters rather than pro boxers. But things might not be that easy for him this time around, though. You see, Nate isn't your average brawler. He knows how to slip in punches. He's got a chin that has never failed him. And he has a gas tank that can last him for days. But that doesn't mean that he can underestimate Jake either. The problem child has proven himself to be a legit boxer, and since boxing isn't Nate's forte, he really could be taken by surprise by the younger Paul. Vitor is probably thinking along the same lines as the Stockton Slapper and all those who came before him. They're writing him off as a kid who's in over his head, and he's only picking on guys who are way past their primes. That's not the only reason Vitor wants it, though. He knows that there's a lot of money to be made with the Paul brothers. They may not be the best fighters, but the thing is that they're really popular, which means more pay-per-view buys, which in turn means way more money. Plus, Belfort can't go toe-to-toe with actual killers in the UFC anymore, or in pro boxing for that matter. So Jake Paul ticks all the boxes for him. That's who he wanted to fight in the first place anyway. But now that the problem child has been slated to face Nate, Vitor's decided to turn his eyes towards his older brother Logan. Will the fight happen? Anyone's guess right now. But maybe the Phenom can land a match with someone else on the undercard. I guess we'll have to wait and see how this plays out. So, from wanting a shot at his younger brother to swearing that he won't hurt the Maverick, that's all we know about Vitor Belfort's call out to Logan Paul.